So today we are going to give a rundown of the internal organization of Mutapa. I think yesterday Takango social, so that political and economic. Zvakakoshera pakuti of all the states, that's the only state yakati chinje internal organization, especially pakapinda ma Portuguese later on. So it's something that we'll explore in the next lessons. So tichangoita a rundown of the internal organization, that small part, then to matter a bit of the Portuguese penetration in Mutapa. Kuti vakapinda sei, vakapinda when, and vanani vakapinda, right? So mangwana ndopa tichazobata the Prazo system and then the downfall of the Mutapa, right? So our starting point today is on the what? The political organization of the Mutapa. So the political system of the Mutapa is also similar to that of the Great Zimbabwe and even that of the Rose State, in which the king was the head of the state and was at the helm of political and economic power. So kingship was what? Was hereditary, right? Umambo waipasa kugarwanaka ndokuti hereditary. So here king wacho ainzi Mutapa, Mwene Mutapa, that was his title. Wemaro zainzani Changamiri, right? And the lines in course. The center of the government was the Mwene Mutapa and his court was run by a team of officials responsible for the various departments, and the court officials included so the king Aibatsiwa, who ran a state Nevana, there was the court chancellor, the court chamberlain, the military commander, the head doorkeeper, and also the chief cook. So the queen mother and the king's sisters and the 9 principal wives of the king were also important figures in the administration of the state. So the queen also helped him to run the state. That's the queen mother. That's the wife, the main wife to the king. And even Tete, his sister, could also help. So the king was appointed by spirit mediums that he consulted in times of what? Of crisis. And according to A.J. Wills, the Mutapa derived most of his political authority from his religious and priestly function as a sole communicator with the ancestral spirits who interceded with the Mwari for rains and disasters facing the what? The nation. So reign ya king, County King Paninga Chitonga, and Spanish the royal fire. The king's life was symbolized by a royal fire. It burned at his capital throughout his reign, and the chiefs were forced to collect that fire on a yearly basis as a sign of loyalty. And so fire symbolized life and what? And unity. And rebels were easily identified by not collecting the royal fire. So royal fire, the fire burning symbolized the king ruling and uniting the people. So the state was very big. I think yesterday we established that it even expanded in some parts of modern day Mozambique and some parts of modern day Botswana. So there was a system of provincial administration. So the state was divided into provinces, where vassal chiefs were in charge of provinces. Vassal chiefs were mainly close relatives of kings entrusted by loyalists. And the most famous include the Changa and Dorwa, who controlled the two southern provinces of Guruswa and Mbire. So just like in the Mapungupe or Great Zimbabwe state, there was subject paid tribute to the king as a sign of loyalty and respect. And the vassal chiefs, those were the small chiefs, they collected and surrendered tribute to the king. And the payment of tribute helped to prevent the chiefs from becoming too powerful and to enhance the wealth of the king. So all the items collected as tribute were distributed to the people in terms of what? In terms of drought. So Iemambo, the chief distributor of what? Of land. His power depended on his ability to control and allocate land which he held. And all foreign traders had to abide by the rules of the state and had to pay tax as well as gifts. wanga usingauye kuzochitengesa mabhachi ako wabva nawo kuPortugal mune vanhu usina kupfuura nepana mambo nandobabata. Yes, so the power of the king rested in the army. He used the army because he was the commander-in-chief of the army, so he used that army to maintain law and order and also to protect the state from the intruders. And it was also used to collect tribute and to expand the state. Paragunzi establishment and the expansion of the state. Vakomana ndo vaizotumwa kuzozvambura vanhu vachikudza state. So the king appointed chiefs, army commander and other government officials. And the king was the judicial leader, religious leader, commander-in-chief of the army, and also controlled the controller of what? Of long-distance trade. Thank you. So under this political organization, there is also the extension of the military organization of the Mutapa, in which the king was the commander-in-chief of the army. He was assisted by an appointed commander called Nengomasha, who was the second most powerful official in the state. So there was a council of war called Darevewondo. So this council ratified war decisions and conscripted soldiers as well as training them. So the king had a very large army which he assembled when need arose. But Papa never got Paduzi, like sort of my bodyguards. The king maintained a small regular force of 200 to 500 soldiers to guard the state and maintain peace and order at the king's court. Like Panama, I found it in the state house. I think for protect Panugara Mukuru. That's the same system in Shanda Bana. Banning about sheet or power the order, we power the Chile remedies. This is the number one citizen in the country. I'm going to go to the down. So, like, that was the system that was being used here. And the drums were beaten and the parapanda was sounded to assemble Mutapa soldiers. This was meeting and so spiritual healers were consulted by the army before it went to war. According to oral tradition, the Mutapa used the magic to instill discipline and confidence in the army. And also the army collected tribute, protected the state from enemies, conquered neighboring states, raided other states, punished rebellious chiefs, maintained law and order, and headed the king's schedule. So you find out in those systems up to now, Mambo, president is also the what? Head the state of government and also the commander-in-chief of the army. He has the power to stop war and also to declare it. So the duty of the army now to protect the president, to protect the king. Nekupachire mirera una president. Because president kana as commander apana masoja ari leader ari king. Anenge reruka. Nemuna angofunga ari kwachenda mbuya dauda yanenge akuzwa kuda kuita. So they also gave what we call dignity and respect to the king. And yes. So let us look at the economic organization of the Mutapa state. Like trade was one of the economic activities of the Mutapa state. They practiced both internal and long-distance trade. So internally they traded amongst themselves. For example, they could exchange iron tools for grain. Or baskets for precious skins. Then externally, since there was a shift of trade from the Sabi Valley to the Zambezi Valley, they now dealt or traded with the Arabs, Swahili and the Portuguese, which enabled them to sustain their economy. They exchanged ivory, gold, iron tools in various ways from activities such as basketry, pottery, wood and stone carving. They also imported products like the ceramic pots, the jewelry, the cloth, the cowrie shells, the glass, the spirits. So they were washambads, vines washambads. Ndo wamutu masondozi. Kana mapostoro ariko kanenge achiturikira kana mapostoro achitaura. They called them washambads, who were Portuguese salesmen, like they were middlemen. But sometimes you could not sell anything directly to a Portuguese person. You needed a middleman. So those middlemen were called the washambads. They were not honest sometimes, as they sometimes took some of the goods they traded to Mutapa or exchanged more than they were supposed to trade goods obtained from foreigners. They were also used in further developing and building up a strong political power base. So most historians agree that trade was the major economic activities, although we don't disagree with that. It actually played a significant role, which we must acknowledge as historians, but there were other activities like crop production too, all right? It was another pillar of the Mutapa economy. They grew crops like finger millet, drought-resistant crops, bourash millet, and varieties of sorghum. They also cultivated rapoko, cotton, beans, watermelons, and later on maize. And maize were, however, not popular during these days, since they were believed to have been introduced by the Portuguese. Most historians, they said crop cultivation was done around September to December. So most of their economic activities were seasonal, right? Nguva yavanenge vasiri kurima nekusakura ndo pavaiita zvemining. Because mining futi iri dangerous yakuiita kana kuchinaya, munokwanisa kuita flooding mumines. Mining is favorable in dry conditions. So the generally favorable climatic conditions ensured successful harvest and resulted in the accumulation of surplus grain. And it is believed that it is believed that they had like accumulation of surplus grain, and the Mutapa people are believed to have practiced crop rotation, and this improved their yields. So this implies that there was successful agriculture, and it should be noted that agriculture and pastoralism were therefore the backbones of the Shona economy. Why? Because the agricultural produce did not only help the people to feed themselves, but it also helped them to pay tribute. No way among items like grain, it was used for payment of tribute. Then there was also animal rearing, which was also another pillar of the Mutapa economy. Animal rearing was promoted by the fact that the pastures were abandoned in the Nande area. They reared animals like cattle, goats, and sheep, which were kept for meat, milk, and fat. And cattle were very important in the Shona culture. They were used for paying lobola, for trade, for tribute, for traditional ceremonies, and for other purposes. They also practiced the transhuman system like in the great Zimbabwe state. And mining was also done in the Mutapa. The mineral items were also used as trading items. So the mined minerals like iron, gold, copper, silver, tin, and lead. And gold was mainly used for exporting, while other minerals like iron and copper were largely used for making tools. And mining improved the power of the state since it brought things like gains through trade. And gold is believed to have attracted many traders because it was panned along the Zambezi River, where many foreigners made their voyages. And copper was also used for making jewelry. For instance, copper bangles. Mining was, however, a seasonal activity done off the rain season when people do not have much work. I think number one I'm point you. There was also hunting. So hunting we're going to do Buddha through and through. Yes. Hunting was one of the economic activities of Mutapa. They hunted animals like hares and kudus for meat, elephants and rhinoceros for ivory, and leopards and cheetahs for their precious skins. It symbolized authority. So hunting thus augmented meat supplies and ivory as well as skins for trade. And so in one way or the other, the mining, the activities, that's analysis. The economic activities complemented each other. And so hunting was done by men. It was also believed that hunting was done for leisure, as people mainly concentrated on crop cultivation and livestock production. So there was also tribute payment, which was also an economic activity of Mutapa. The subjects of the king paid tribute to the king in form of cattle, goats, grain, iron tools, mineral, salt, precious skins, baskets. There were so many trading items. Also provision of labor. Kuzundera Mambo was also a form of paying tribute. Right. Bozi Mambo could like keep the grain collected as tribute, and he could redistribute to the people in times of crisis, like drought. So foreigners like Arabs, Swahilis, and later on the Portuguese also paid tribute in form of luxurious goods like cloth. These foreigners paid tribute in form of keva for them to be allowed to trade, right? And also for keva, and a sort of mutero, trade in state. So tribute was also of political importance because they could identify loyal and disloyal subject. So kubadala kwako tribute ndo kwa ibuditsa pachena kuti uri loyal to the system or you are not. So failure to pay tribute was viewed as a sign of what? Disloyalty. So there were other economic activities like fishing, raiding, blacksmithing, gathering, pottery, basketry, and so forth. There were so many. Fishing, raiding, blacksmithing, gathering, pottery, and basket. The Portuguese.